Welcome. I'm excited to share with you today our unique proficiency-based series for your French students, EntreCultures. My name is Alexis Buschert, and I'm an instructional strategist with Wayside Publishing. We put your students at the center of everything we do. We want to make sure that their language learning journey is not only fun, but relevant and gets them excited to use the target language outside of the classroom. EntreCultures is a proficiency-based series that aims to take students along the path to proficiency, beginning at Novice Low in the Level 1 book to Intermediate Mid in the Level 3 book. Our series are aligned to the leading research in our field and follow the guidelines of the World Readiness Standards for Learning Languages, or the 5 Cs, ACTFL's Proficiency Guidelines and Performance Descriptors, and the Can-Do Statements. EntreCultures is also aligned with the AP themes and includes practice and AP-style tasks starting in Level 1. We are going to look at how EntreCultures incorporates these 4 proficiency pillars: a focus on interculturality, effective use of authentic resources throughout all levels and units, presenting language in context, and our use of performance-based assessments so that students can demonstrate what they are able to do. The first pillar we will look at is how we put emphasis on learning language and culture together, or what is known as interculturality. As language teachers, we're accustomed to looking at culture through the lens of the 3 Ps: products, practices, and perspectives. However, interculturality takes that knowledge a step further. Each unit highlights a French-speaking country along with a unit theme. Every unit starts with an introduction to the country of focus. This helps students acquire some background knowledge as a basis for some of the connections and comparisons they'll be making later on. To help you with ideas for how to interact with this cultural opener, you can dive into our online instructional strategies toolkit on LearningSite to find great strategies to use, like this one called Picture Talk, where these cultural images are used to provide comprehensible input. Another option for interacting with these cultural openers is to use graphic organizers that make connections and comparisons. In the Ressources folder in LearningSite, you will find an entire folder of graphic organizers, such as a Venn diagram, and these are typable PDFs that can be shared with your students. These can be used on the computer or printed and used as handouts. One of my favorite features is our video bloggers. These are not actors with memorized scripts that use defined vocabulary and grammar. They are just regular teens from the country of focus who talk about topics related to the unit theme. Here, the students meet Quebecois student Marianne and François from France. They introduce themselves and talk about where they live. Being that the video bloggers use their own natural language, we help students successfully interact with them by providing scaffolded activities with pre, during, and post-viewing activities, along with cultural reflection pieces. Let's watch a quick clip of François.
Salut, je m'appelle François, j'ai 15 ans et j'habite en France, à Amiens. Amiens, c'est ici, entre Paris et la Belgique. Dans la vie, je pratique le handball. Je fais aussi du skate et je lis des comics. Mais je n'aime pas du tout faire mes devoirs et ranger ma chambre.
Another way to get students to deepen their reflection within the language is with our online discussion forum, which looks similar to a familiar social media feed. Students are able to respond to prompts with written, video, or audio comments, as well as upload images, videos, or other files as needed. Teachers can add comments and fun reactions as well. Another feature I would like to point out here are the can-do statements. There are both intercultural can-do statements, like we have here, and communicative can-do statements throughout our resources. Students can use the online portfolio to keep track of their progress with the can-do statements, write a reflection of their learning, and upload evidence of it. In EntreCultures, students show their understanding of those 3 Ps by how they use the knowledge while communicating. That gets us to the heart of interculturality, The name EntreCultures says it all. Let's move on to our next proficiency pillar. We guide students to interact with real language by using authentic resources in ways that allow students to communicate authentically, just like they do outside of the classroom. We model the recommendations set by ACTFL to edit the task and not the text. We use the authentic resource, which is something created by native speakers for native speakers, so that students are able to interact with real language, but then we create tasks that are at the appropriate proficiency level, so students are able to understand and use the information in a way that reflects language use outside of the classroom. As you can see here, authentic resources are used from the first unit in the Level 1 book. The tasks are at an appropriate level for novice low students, interpreting infographics and charts with cognates and visuals to aid in understanding, and then using that information as a springboard for an interpersonal conversation and a cultural comparison. Many of the tasks are broken down into étapes, or steps, to help students successfully interpret authentic resources. Here, students take part in a Think, Pair, Share activity as they look at the top 2 graphs about family living in Belgium. First, they note what they see and think. Secondly, they jot down questions that they're wondering about. Next, they look at the 3rd graph below, a graph about typical households in the US. Then they compare their findings in step 2. For the réflexion interculturelle, students are making cultural connections to help build interculturality. Students post their thoughts in the discussion forum on Explorer. While learning vocabulary related to school, students watch a video about a school in France. Notice for this novice mid-level, students are asked to identify words they hear and other observations they make while watching the video. Let's watch a short clip.
On est dans une salle avec un surveillant.
Bon allez, vous sortez tous vos affaires, s'il vous plaît.
Aujourd'hui, c'est Barbara. Elle est trop cool. Mais il ne faut pas trop l'embêter. On en profite pour faire nos devoirs. Ce qui est bien, quand on sèche sur une question, on peut toujours lui demander de nous aider. En 6e, il y a 4 heures de sport par semaine. Et pour les accros qui veulent en faire plus, il y a l'UNSS. Mon collège utilise un système biométrique. Il suffit de poser la main et la machine nous reconnaît. C'est un vrai cuistot qui nous fait à manger. Bon, il nous fait souvent des légumes avec de la viande ou le poisson. Normal, c'est pour que ce soit équilibré.
There are many intriguing photos throughout the text, such as these images from Togo. You can go back to the Instructional Strategies Toolkit online and use other strategies such as I see, I think, I wonder to get students thinking more deeply about the pictures, or the retelling with a photo strategy, where students create stories based on what they see in authentic images. Here we have an example of literature, a nursery rhyme in this case, used for the authentic resource. You can see that the new vocabulary from the nursery rhyme is introduced with pictures and a matching activity that can either be done traditionally with pen and paper or with the online version that you see on the right. Also online, there's an audio recording that you can play in class or that students can access on their own. Let's take a listen.
Toute la famille se réveille. Ouvrez, ouvrez les volets. Toute la famille se réveille. La journée peut commencer.
In the learning site, we have provided a link to a video of the author performing the song with actions as he sings. That will help make the song even more comprehensible for your students. Authentic resources are even found in our performance-based assessments, like here where students look at this page from a website describing summer camp opportunities in France. They read the information and select the camp that is best suited for them. The other tasks in this assessment are based off the decision they make. We model the recommendations set by ACTFL to edit the task and not the text. We use the authentic resource as is so that students are able to interact with real language, but then we create tasks that are at the appropriate proficiency level so that students are able to understand and use the information in a way that reflects language use outside of the classroom. Moving on to our next proficiency pillar, language and context. Language is all about communication, and we provide students the opportunities to acquire and use language in meaningful contexts, not in isolation. We are taking a step beyond memorization. Vocabulary is presented in sections called Comment dit-on. Let's take a closer look. This Comment dit-on section addresses the essential question, how do school courses and schedules reflect the educational values of a community? Students see the vocabulary for school schedules used in context, with the schedules shown on the cell phones and in the dialogue between the students about their school day. On top of what is in the textbook, there are additional activities online in Learning Site. Activités supplémentaires and any other related resources that are in the textbook can also be accessed by selecting the green compass icons in the flex text. This Comment dit-on section has a variety of activités supplémentaires available. Now that we have some input with our new vocabulary from that Comment dit-on introduction, we will look at some of the activities in the textbook. The first activity is in the presentational mode, as indicated by the yellow pen and paper icon. Here, students organize the classes that are offered at their school by content area in preparation for an interpretive listening activity that follows. This can be completed on this PDF organizer either online or printed as a handout. The next two tasks are interpretive audiovisual activities. If I select the green compass icon, it links me to the resources for this activity, such as the video and the PDF of the activity response sheet. The last activity in this section includes presentational and interpersonal writing tasks. Also notice the on peut s'y dire vocabulary providing adjectives to enhance student responses. This is a great feature for differentiating instruction by offering additional useful vocabulary. Moving on to the grammar section now. These sections are called découvrant. We use inductive grammar lessons in our textbooks, which are fairly unique to our series. In a traditional deductive grammar approach, the teacher provides all the grammar knowledge and rules to the students up front, and then they practice what they've been told. However, with inductive grammar teaching, you are more of a guide for the students, helping them as they explore, discover, and use their new grammar knowledge so that they're constructing their own understanding as you help them along. The inductive approach we use in our textbooks is called the discovery process. As you can see, there are 5 steps to this process. I'm going to walk you through all 5 of these steps as we look at a découvrant section. For this particular découvrant section, we're looking at verbs in the present tense. To present this in context, there are 2 people using these structures in a dialogue. The first step in the discovery process is for students to read the text and analyze it for meaning only. At this point, we're not talking about grammar. This is a simple interpretive task, asking students to read the dialogue and strive for comprehension. Once you are certain students have the gist of the text, move on to step 2. Now you will start to talk about the grammar, but only by pointing it out. The structures of focus will already be bolded, underlined, or in a different color in the text. Draw the student's attention to these structures. Once students have studied the structures a bit, have them look at the guided questions in the découverte box below. They will work through these questions in a think, pair, share format using the graphic organizer. First, they answer the questions on their own and fill in the j'observe column, and then they will pair with a partner and write down their observations in the other column. Then the entire class has a discussion to share their ideas and come to a conclusion together, co-constructing the rules for this structure of focus. Next, students test their predictions to see if they are true or not. You will provide them with more input, which in most cases will be a video, where students will see and hear a conversation that uses those target structures in the context again, so that they can confirm or revise their hypotheses. Let's listen to the video.
Bonjour! Today, we are going to observe how verb endings tell us who is doing an action. Listen to me say what I like to do. J'aime regarder la télévision. J'aime écouter la radio. Look at the verbs in blue. What do they have in common? Très bien. They both end in er. These verbs are in the infinitive form. They mean to watch and to listen. A key question we want you to be able to answer today is how do verbs change to indicate who is doing the action? Listen to the dialogue.
J'étudie l'anglais et le français au lycée bilingue Victor Hugo.
Génial! Étudies-tu d'autres langues?
Oui, j'étudie l'italien.
We see two forms for ER verbs that just happen to sound alike, étudie and étudie. We use the ending e for je and es for tu.
There are activity sheets that go along with the video to help students process the information. By the end of this step, students usually have a pretty good idea of how that grammar structure is used and why. The last step is for students to communicate using the structure. By this point, students have a good understanding of how and why that structure is used. There are textbook activities available with practice in all modes of communication. As with the vocabulary section, there is also additional practice available in LearningSite. We just experienced some examples of how EntreCultures presents language, both vocabulary and grammar, in context so that there is always meaning attached. Students interact in the different modes of communication, completing tasks that mimic how language is really used to communicate. This helps us move toward our goal of increasing proficiency for our students. Our last proficiency pillar focuses on students showing us what they know and can do through performance-based assessments that help push their proficiency to even higher levels. When we say that we focus on performance-based assessments, that means both our formative and summative assessments as well. The formative assessments are called j'avance. There are usually 3 or 4 tasks in different modes of communication, all centered around the unit theme, and assess the student's progress with the can-do statements. This is a great time to have students revisit the online student portfolio to reflect and update it as necessary. Note that we also have tiered formative assessments in EntreCultures. As you can see, there are 3 differentiated versions of j'avance. The most challenging version is the rouge, with fewer linguistic supports. The on-target version is the blanc, with some supports, and the version with the most support and scaffolding is the bleu. All students take the same summative assessment, but the formative assessments are tiered. To grade these formative j'avance assessments, we have rubrics in each of the modes of communication in both analytic and holistic formats for you to download and use. We also have a single point rubric, which is highly popular among teachers because it is simple, giving both students and teachers space to reflect on both strengths and weaknesses and creating flexibility in a clear manner. The summative assessments are called J'y arrive and are integrated performance assessments. These are different from the j'avance formative assessments in that these will always have 3 interconnected tasks, one in each mode of communication, that build upon each other to provide a complete picture of how your students can use the language. Note that even though there's a description of the tasks in the textbook, all of the essential resources for those tasks are found online. Each J'y arrive assessment starts with the essential questions and gives the context, which in this case is an e-pal exchange with an Algerian student. In the first task, which is interpretive, students will compare their school schedules to Sophia's, an Algerian student, and then answer questions. The interpretive task prompts move from asking for a very global understanding in étape 1 to focusing on more specific details in étape 2. Next, students will move on to the interpersonal writing task, which is a written simulated chat conversation. Students chat with Sophia and answer her questions. On the assessment PDF, students have access to the prompts. And finally, students have the presentational speaking task, where they will create either a video visit or visual presentation about their school day to share with Sophia. Each J'y arrive IPA has a specific rubric to use in giving feedback. You can see that all 3 modes are included in the rubric, and it's tailored for this specific assessment. The integrated performance assessments and other performance-based assessments and the rubrics have already been created for you, taking a great deal of work off your plates as teachers. But not only that, the tasks are engaging and encourage our students to want to be able to communicate in the target language, which again helps us achieve our goal of increased proficiency. Now that we've looked at EntreCultures through our 4 proficiency pillars, I have a few more things that I would like to share with you. First, we offer companion readers for French. Each level of the French textbook includes one of the readers that you see here. Along with the printed version of the reader in the textbook, the readers are also available online and include an ebook, a dramatic reading of each chapter by a native speaker, the teacher's guide, and auto-graded online tasks. EntreCultures also includes content on Nuolang, in addition to everything available in LearningSite. Nuolang is cutting-edge technology that helps students overcome barriers to understanding and speaking in the target language. Our textbooks are supported by LearningSite, which houses many great features like the FlexText Explorer course, Instructional Strategies Toolkit, and Digital Portfolio. FlexText is the online version of the textbook and contains links to resources like audio and video files, tasks, extension activities, and more. FlexText is searchable and allows you to annotate, highlight, and take notes. The Explorer course is where you find a variety of resources like downloadable PDFs, auto and manually graded assignments, the classroom forum, and teacher resources like audio scripts. In addition to the teacher resources available in Explorer, the Learning Strategies Toolkit provides you with ideas and suggestions for activities. You can search and filter through the toolkit by mode of communication, skill, proficiency level, and more. LearningSite is also home to the Digital Portfolio, which connects to can-do statements found within the textbook and allows students the opportunity to self-assess and reflect upon their progress towards proficiency. The portfolio can also follow them from year to year. We started out by saying that your students are our reason why, but that's only partly true. You are also our reason why. We are here to support you every step of the way on your path to proficiency. Whether these concepts are all new to you, or if you've been implementing these proficiency-based ideas for a while, or maybe you're somewhere in between these 2 points, we are here for you. When you adopt with Wayside Publishing, we walk this path with you, providing the training you need for successful implementation of not only the new textbook and online platform, but these proficiency ideas as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and learn more about our French program. If you have any further questions about Wayside Publishing, please contact us at this email address.